So today we are going to start off by looking at how to use your textual evidence and how to properly cite that evidence. Because if you do not cite your evidence, both as a parenthetical citation, which is the thing in parentheses that appears after a quote, or the citation in your bibliography or works cited page, it is technically plagiarism. Now in here you'll get zeros if you don't do those particular steps on those things, but in some types of college courses and things like that, it is actually an offense that could cause you to be kicked out of a class, receive a zero in a class, or depending on the severity of it, even just being kicked out of college. Okay, so that's why it's super and super important to make sure that you are citing your sources. So I found this article, 10 Ways to Cultivate a Love of Reading in Students. It's on EdUtopia. And so I pulled a quote from here. I grabbed it yesterday and I put it on a separate document. I thought that it was pretty good with explaining like what we need to do to help foster a love of reading. So share your reading experiences, share with colleagues, friends, and students. Tell them what you've been reading, what you've gained or learned from these texts, what you recommend. All right, and so my author was Eleanor Aguilar. Now, because this quote, this text, all right, it comes from an article. So you'll see right here, share your reading experiences. It comes from an article. It does not belong to me. So because it does not belong to me, I have to start by putting quotation marks around the actual quote. Now, something that is super crazy important when doing this is the punctuation. Okay, so you'll see here that there's a period. I have to get rid of that. There should not be a punctuation mark separating the last word and the quotation marks. Now, for your parenthetical citation, you'll hit the space bar once after the quotation marks, and then you put a parentheses, and you do the author's last name. So in this case, Aguilar. There are no page numbers on my website. Now, many of you will not have page numbers unless you use like a PDF file or an online scholarly journal. So in this case, just the author's last name, parentheses, period. Okay, so that is how you do the citation. You also have to have your textual evidence embedded. Embedding means you are adding your own words to the quote. So embedding can come beforehand. So let's see. You have to make sure that it flows, so it can't be a separate sentence. So I want to see how I can lead into this quote. So I might say, one expert states that you should share your reading experiences. So you see how that sounds like a complete sentence? One expert states that you should share your reading experiences. So that's how you do it with the embedding before. If you wanted to do embedding after, okay, so we'll label this one embedding before. Okay, yeah, let's just copy and paste the whole thing. And then we'll say embedding after. All right, so if we want to embed after, it can sometimes be a little bit trickier. So tell me what you've been reading, what you've gained or learned from these texts, what you recommend, as these are important steps to show students it's possible to love reading. Now, I don't put a period there because that's not the end of my sentence. My end of the sentence comes after the parenthetical citation. You can also do embedding before and after. Personally, I find it's one of the trickiest things to do. in this case, it's not going to work with my quote. Like it's not happening with the particular quote that I chose. But it is possible to have embedding both before and after. So I could technically like combine these two things. So I could say one expert states that you should share your reading experiences, share with your colleagues, friends, and students. Tell them what you've been reading, what you've gained or learned from these texts, what you recommend, as these are important steps to show students how it's possible to love reading. Aguilar. Okay, so you could do it that way as well. It's entirely up to you how you would like to do it, but it should sound like one seamless sentence. I kind of like my embedding after on this one because I did embedding for on my previous one. So I'm going to copy that quote and I'm going to pull up my paper. So as you can see, I have the bulk of my paper complete. And I'm going to paste it right here. Now I do need to change that so it's a bullet point. All right. So you'll see I also have one up here. One statistic states that, so that's my embedding, quotation marks. Now I have dot, dot, dot. This is an ellipses. It just simply means I removed part of this sentence. Okay, so you remove things that you don't necessarily need. So one statistic states that kids read for fun less and less as they get older, with 45% of 17-year-olds saying they read by choice only once or twice a year, quotation marks, alter. So my embedding, one statistic states that, I have my quote, and then I have my parenthetical citation, which is alter, no page numbers. Okay, so that's how you do a parenthetical citation with your textual evidence as well as embedding.